in this program. And the topic for today is understanding the basic rules of grammar. So, Madam Odejide will be taking us through how to understand the basic rules of grammar. So we don't just go out to speak; we speak good and great grammar. So, without wasting too much time, Madam Odejide, can you hear me, please, ma'am?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you.
Good morning, ma. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, ma.
Or
It's past
rather, sorry, good
already.
afternoon. It's already afternoon. Yes, okay.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Please, you can take over the class now, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all. I'm happy to be here. And as was already introduced, my name is Feyisayo Odejide, and I am absolutely delighted to be with you today. So I'm just going to share my screen and we will kick off the class. I hope everyone can see my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen. Please, can you indicate that you can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. We can see your screen now, ma'am.
All right, beautiful. So, let me, come on, let me do that. Sorry about that. I just want to maximize my screen. But this ribbon is always getting in my way. Okay, beautiful. Now let's do this. Now, the big question usually is, if we already speak English so well, why are we dedicating our time to something as as dry as the basic rules of English grammar? Well, the simple answer is clarity is power. And clarity is not just power, it's influence, it's money, it's respect. So it's about your daily life. Whether you're writing a business proposal, to a client, whether you're sending a professional email to your orgas in the office, or even updating your CV, or perhaps maybe you're sending a WhatsApp message in a group. You want to be understood. You need to be understood exactly the way you intend. You don't want people to start, misconstruing anything, because miscommunication is expensive. It costs us time, it costs us opportunities, and sometimes it costs us relationships. And clear communication prevents those headaches. So it makes you look incompetent when you're not communicating the way you're supposed to be communicating. And when you're communicating adequately, then you look competent, you look intelligent, and even trustworthy, because you found the right words to convey what it is that you want to say. So how did we all get there, get here, right? How did we learn to speak? Most of us picked it up naturally, right? Now, we learned from our parents, we learned from our aunties and our uncles, our teachers in school, and the people that are in our community. We listened, we copied, we figured it out. And our earliest memories of reading and speaking are parts of this natural journey. But there's a difference between speaking naturally and communicating with precision. Imagine trying to cook jollof rice without a recipe for the very first time. You know that it's gonna go far. You get me? So at that point, you have the rice, you have the tomatoes, you have the pepper, you have the onions, you have the oil. You have all the right ingredients. But if you don't know the rules as to how much oil you need to add, or how much onions you need to add, or how long you need to make it simmer for, or something like that. At the end of the day, the results are going to be they're going to be very interesting. You know, it might end up becoming jollof pudding instead of jollof rice. You understand? So yeah, language is like that. In fact, it's exactly like that. You can have all the right words, but if you don't follow the structure, if you don't follow the rules, you'll get chaos. So imagine saying something like, oh, day, I'm going for, sorry, imagine saying something like, day, I'm going for, yes, walk, it shops the beautiful and to A. Does that even make any sense? It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. And then, of course, the response of this Mr. Bear in this my cartoon here is like, what are you talking about? I don't get you. You know, this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't have the right words. Sorry, when you have the right words, but you have the wrong structure. So when we master conventions of language, we ensure that our communication is clear, it's effective, you know, and then you wouldn't want to just do things big generally in life without applying the right rules. You know, it's like playing um football without the rules. So our goal today is not about making you sound like Wole Soyinka or a British newsreader, but it's about giving you the practical tools, you know, the guidelines to be precise, to be confident, and to avoid being ambiguous in your writing and speaking. So we're going to turn your already, depending on how well we all speak English, whether good English, whether passable English, but I'm going to give you the tools today to turn it into powerful and effective English. I hope you're all with me. Okay? I hope you're all with me. So it's important to note that, you know, English has rules and these rules need to be followed. So we're going to learn how to communicate clearly. These are a list of archaic words, you know, words that people used to use before and they do not use anymore. So you have words like mottle, you have words like haver, you know, I reckon, and in fact, I can bet that many of us have not heard a lot of these words before because, like I said, they don't use them anymore. Okay. So yeah, we have mottle, we have haver, we have chalk, we have fulminate, we have events, we have delete, we have base, we have invade, we have jorum, we have null, we have lache, and we have orist. Okay. So these are words like that. And so we call them the lost words. And then, of course, we also have the new and troublesome words. These are words that, you know, they more recently have been added to the English dictionary. Words like blading, cross-training, televangelist, road rage, artsy, you know, things like that, basically. So let's just move on to it, right? Um, what are punctuations? Punctuations are extremely important when you're speaking, okay? When we're chatting face to face, it's even easier, okay? Because you know we have so many tools. We use our voice, it goes up, it goes down. We pause for effect, we use our hands, we use our facial expressions, and you know, things like that. But when we write, all of that is gone, right? Your reader can't see you. So how do we guide them? We use punctuations, right? Now think of punctuation symbols as, you know, traffic signs for your reader, right? They are the signposts. Um, they tell the reader when to stop completely, when to slow down, when to yield, when to, you know, make a sharp turn or something like that. And without them, reading is like truly driving a car that is at high speed in a city with no traffic lights, right? So how do they work, right? How do they work? They help you, relate to one another or to whoever it is that you're writing to, by letting them know where it is that you want to stop and where it is that you want to go, and where it is that you want to pause. Okay. Now, there's some there's the punctuations that we call the major punctuation marks, right? So we have the full stop, okay? The full stop. Now that's your big red stop sign. It tells the reader that a complete thought has ended, right? A sentence is a complete sentence, usually, I'm sorry, a complete statement, usually containing a verb, all right? So it's your chance to take a full breath before starting the next idea, right? Now, on a quick side note, in the past, you'd see full stops after abbreviations like Reverend, like REV for Reverend, or MON for Monday. Now, today, the trends basically just leave them out. So we don't worry too much about that. Now, for the busiest, most hardworking symbol on your keyboard, it is the darling comma, right? The comma is your slowdown or yield sign. It indicates a short pause, not a full stop, but a short pause, okay? So getting commas right will instantly make your writing more professional. And it has a few key jobs, right? One of them is that it helps you to separate items in a list. Okay, so if you're saying something like, I went to the farm to buy yams, right? You put a comma at the end of yams, then plantains, you put another comma, then tomatoes, you put another comma, and then pepper. Do you understand? So because there's a list of things there, you say, I went to the market to buy yams, comma, plantains, comma, tomatoes, comma, and pepper. So the commas separate each item so that the reader doesn't get lost. Another thing that commas does is that it helps to separate clauses. It helps to separate clauses. So it connects independent statements, basically complete thoughts like that. When you use linking words like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, we call them fanboys, okay? Now, if you say something like, oh, Jenny said she would buy the tickets, but she hasn't shown them to me, you require a comma at the end of tickets to link to kind of link it to the second one, which is she hasn't shown them to me. So the linking word there, of course, is but. The comma, however, is the comma before the but is very essential. Okay. Now, what if a simple slowdown is just not enough? What if you want to make something, some kind of more significant pause, but not a full stop, right? That's when you need the semicolon, right? The semicolon is like a super comma. So it's stronger than a comma, but not as final as a full stop. Its main job is to connect two closely related, independent sentences. So we often use it before powerful transitions like however, therefore, also, moreover, furthermore, hence, consequently. Do you understand? So This gives the word that follows more weight and more importance. Okay, so an example of that would be, oh, she's a wonderful chef, therefore we must consider her for the job. The semicolon signals a strong connection between being a great chef and getting the job. Then next, we have the colons. Now the colons is made of two full stops. It's the job its job is to say that and now here it is. That's what it does. And now here it is. So it introduces something important, a list, a quotation, or an explanation. It points the reader forward and it builds anticipation. Okay, for example, she needed 3 things to succeed, semicolon, right? Courage, intelligence, and a bit of luck, right? Another example would be to say, oh, she ran all the way home, crashed on the bed exhausted. Then you put, your colons, she slept for a week, okay? So the colons tell us the result of her exhaustion, okay? And then we have the apostrophes, okay? Now the apostrophes, they talk about possession and contraction. So for a small symbol, it actually causes a big problem because it has 2 very distinct and very important jobs, okay? Now for the possession aspects, for singular nouns, you add an apostrophe. For example, the boy's bicycle or the mother's bad temper, right? And then for plural, and so basically you add that up the apostrophe in the singular noun before the s, right? But then for plurals, you add the apostrophe after the s. So you just add the apostrophe there after the s. An example of that would be the girls' book with an apostrophe at the back of girls, right? Or you say something like 2 weeks pay, right? 2 weeks pay, okay? You can see that the apostrophe is at the end of weeks, okay? Now, for singular nouns that end in S, like James or class, things get tricky, right? Things get tricky. In the past, you would add the apostrophe and S. And so you would say something like James's with James apostrophe S. Okay? But today it's acceptable just to add the apostrophe at the end of James without adding an extra S. The same thing with class, So rather than say the classes with class apostrophe S, you just say classes still with class apostrophe, okay? Right. Then in the contraction aspect, the apostrophe takes the place of missing letters. So when you write something like you are, it becomes your, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, okay? Or do not becomes don't, like D-O-N apostrophe T. And will not becomes won't, W-O-N apostrophe T, okay? Now that's how to use it in contraction. Do not confuse it's, which means it is, with it, which shows possession, okay? It's a beautiful day versus the dog wagged its tail. This is something that, a lot of people make a mistake of. They're 2 different things. So there's the one that talks about it is, and then there's the other one that talks about possession. So those are two different things as well. Okay, I hope we're together. I hope we're together. I hope I'm not losing anybody. Okay, now
Yeah.
let's look at, okay, beautiful, thank you. Let's look at an example. Okay, because theory is one thing, but if we see, let me see, did I put okay, so unfortunately, okay, let me just explain it. All right, now there's, let me read out a sentence to you. Okay, am I getting questions? Let me check. Am I getting questions? Okay, beautiful. Thank you for responding to me. Thank you very much. Right. So I was saying, let me read out a sentence to you, okay? All my friends have mobile phones. I can't afford one. And I'm reading this out. I don't know why I didn't put this inside this my slides. I have them in my old slides. I don't, and so it's very weird, but that's why I'm going to read it out. Now I'm reading this out now without without any kind of apostrophe or anything like that. And I hope you can just imagine that. Unfortunately, okay, sorry, I'm getting a call. Please, I beg of you, just give me like 1 minute to respond to the call, and then I'll proceed. Okay. My apologies for that interruption. It was important that I responded to that. If not, they were going to continue calling me. So I finished. So sorry about that. Right. So I was saying, I hope we can still hear me. I hope everyone can still hear me. Please
Yes, we
indicate.
can hear you, ma.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Right. So where was I? Okay. So I'm going to read out this sentence again, without apostrophes, without commas, without anything, so that you can understand why it's important to have those apostrophes in the sentences. Just imagine what I'm saying without any apostrophes in there, all right? So all my friends have mobile phones. I cannot, I mean, I can't afford one because my parents work hard to support our family. Also, imagine this without commas, without full stop, without anything, okay? Um, they say that it's more important for me to read books than spend time on expensive phones. They don't understand the pressure my friends put on me to have a mobile phone. How should I choose? Okay, now that is what I just read out now without any apostrophes, without any punctuation whatsoever, no full stops, no commas, no um, um, question marks, no, nothing. Okay, then let me now read it out with punctuations in there. All right. All my friends have mobile phones. I can't afford one because my parents work hard to support our family. They say that it's more important for me to read books than spend time on my mobile phone. They understand the pressure my parents, sorry, they don't understand the pressure my parents put on me to have a mobile phone. How should I choose? Okay. Now you can see that there's more structure, the emotion, the confusion, the plea at the end. It all comes through the punctuation guides. So our voice, you know, is heard through, the punctuations when we write. And so that's the power of these little marks. They give your words rhythm and life. Okay? Now, let's talk about our speech marks or our quotation marks. How do we how do we handle the words of other people, right? And speech marks is what help us in doing this. Okay. So we have um it's critical for anyone writing reports, writing journalistic pieces, or even academic assignments, all right, to know how to use speech marks, quotation marks, right? And it's usually very important when you have direct speech and indirect speech, all right? Because those are the two methods for recording something that someone has said. So in direct speech, the exact words, right? They record exactly what a person has said. You're quoting their precise words line by line. And this method is very important when you're um, when you're reporting something someone probably quoted maybe in public, like a public figure or maybe a president or a minister, something like that that acquires their authority, or sorry, that acknowledges their authority or their knowledge. Okay. So in this wise, it's important to use speech marks, all right, to convey that, all right. And then it also makes um emotional statements incredibly powerful. So when we read the exact words, it's easier to put ourselves in that person's situation. So we use speech marks, which look like double apostrophes. Okay, so crucially, all punctuation marks, um, commas, question marks, full stop, they all go inside the speech marks, all right? And so the spoken words start with a capital letter. For example, the young mother was heard to say, "It came out of nowhere. We were totally unprepared. At that moment in time, I thought I would never see my children again." Now you can see how, or you can hear how, you know, those words sounded very emotional. That's because they're encased in a speech mark, because somebody is reporting precisely what someone said, all right? As opposed to the indirect speech, where you're reporting the essence of what someone has said. At that point, indirect speech reports, what someone said, but not their exact words. So we use the method to summarize or give a general sense of a person's words without quoting them entirely. Okay, so writers like journalists often use this if the exact quote is too long, confusing, or maybe too informal. Okay, so at this point the structure is the speech marks they're typically replaced by the word that. Okay, so the original speaker becomes less important because you're reporting about the speech. So you hear in in um in 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 direct speech, you will hear he said with the speech marks opening, I'd really like to go to Canada, speech mark close. Okay. And then in indirect speech, you hear something like he said that he'd really like to go to Canada. So you can see the difference between the two sentences, the one with direct speech that shows the speech marks and the one with indirect speech that doesn't show the speech marks. Okay. Then we have the exclamation and the question marks. So we have exclamation and question marks. Now, these symbols, they inject immediate tone into our writing. Like in the case of a question mark, for instance, it's the easiest sign to recognize. It tells us about the preceding statement, and it tells us that it is a direct question. So an example of that would be, oh, what did you do on Saturday? Okay. It can also show that the writer or speaker is doubtful or unsure about the correctness of a statement. Okay. So if you write the meeting starts at 9 a.m., that's then basically clarifying. So the question mark immediately conveys doubt or a need for confirmation, even without you saying it aloud. Okay. But then the exclamation mark is it's that powerful punctuation. Okay. It's the one that adds oomph to words. It tells the reader that a word is stated with perhaps anger, disgust, or even excitement. So or sometimes it's even you know indicative of a strong command. So an example would be, give me my money now, or you're such a nosy Parker, or you have to do 4 essays by Monday. Okay. So using it correctly makes a command firm and urgent. So it's important to use it sparingly, because too many exclamation marks can make you look desperate or overly emotional. Okay, then we have the other symbols like the ellipsis. Okay. Um, Now the ellipsis is a symbol. It's three dots and has four main functions. Right. It helps to show that the writer has deliberately left something out. Right. Something out of maybe perhaps a quotation or something like that. Or it also helps to indicate that that something is that a thought is incomplete. Okay. Or to show that time has passed. Right. To show that time has passed. Also, it helps to show that a speech was perhaps all over the place. So an example of an incomplete thought would be, I wanted to tell her that I loved her, but dot dot dot, you know. So at that point, that thought is incomplete. You can do with that whatever it is that you will, okay? Or if in the example of omission in quote, for instance, homework must be completed on time, dot dot dot. All late homework will lose marks, things like that, basically. And then we have the asterisk, okay, that some people call asterix, but it's correctly pronounced as asterisk, okay? Now, this is primarily used to tell the reader that there's a note of explanation about what has been written, okay? So usually you find it at the bottom of a page. For instance, the camp is next Monday, everything will be provided. So there's an asterisk there. All right. Then sometimes you also use it in um, things like note below. Okay. So note below, students should bring sleeping bags, right? And then it can also be it can be placed in letters, and sorry, it can place between letters, or it can be used to replace letters actually, in words that may, offend people, like profanity and things like that. Often you see such things in newspapers, okay? Um, yeah, and then we have the stroke, right? We have the stroke, the forward slash, which has two main jobs. It can tell us that we have a choice to make, like you maybe want to order a sandwich and you hear things like um, the options available are lettuce, cheese, tomato. So you have, the slashes there and things like that when you go to order food, or to separate lines in poetry, like twinkle twinkle little star, and then there's a slash, how I wonder what you are, and then there's a slash or a stroke, and then up above the world so high, there's a slash or a stroke, like a diamond in the sky, that kind of a thing. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I need to take this call again. I'm so sorry, guys. Please, please. Please, I crave your forgiveness. Kindly forgive me for that breaking transmission. Okay, so yes, let's proceed. All right. Now, we've talked about direct speech and indirect speech and all of those things. Let's talk about parts of speech. All right, parts of speech. So, every word in the English language falls into, you know, one of these categories in the parts of speech. All right. And understanding them helps you assemble clear and grammatically correct sentences. Okay. So the first one we have, which are which is the most common and the most I think that's the most memorable one, if I'm not wrong, because I can remember. Okay, so I grew up not being able to speak English because English was not my first language. And when I got into nursery school, as a matter of fact, even primary school, I was completely lost. I couldn't speak any English, but I managed to scale through. I don't know how. But when I got to primary one, I remember very distinctly being told that the noun is the name of a person, animal, place, or thing. So that makes it very memorable for me. Okay. And so yes, nouns are they're simply the naming words, really. They're the naming words. They give names to all the things that we encounter. Without them, You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a chair and a couch, or football and hockey. Okay, so the more you know um um about nouns, the clearer your communication will be. So we have different types of nouns. We have tangible nouns, and these are the nouns that we that we can see, or touch, things we can see or touch, like people, like places, things like that. And then we have the abstract nouns that name things that we can't see, like feelings, like concepts, like ideas or qualities. So an example of that would be a principle. You cannot see a principle, you know you can't see ability, you can't see silence, you can't see pride, you know, you can't see love, you can't see democracy, but you understand the essence of them and you can feel them, things like that. Yes. All right. So yeah. And then we have common nouns, right? Common nouns, those are the ones that are used for um, general classes of people, of places, of things, like girl or country or religion. Okay. And then we have the proper nouns. Okay. Those are the specific names of people, of places, of organizations, of days, of months, of titles. So we have things like Emma or Accra or Monday. Okay, those are examples of proper nouns, because Emma is a person's name, Accra is a place, Monday is a time. Okay, or a day, as it were. So you proper nouns always start with a capital letter. All right, and then we have collective nouns. We have the collective nouns for things like groups of animals. Okay, so a committee, a class, a herd of cattle, things like that. All right. So apart from the categories we've seen, the common, the abstract, the collective nouns, we also have two important distinctions. We have the countable nouns and the uncountable nouns. So they come in singular and plural form, right? So countable nouns are those that we can count: one apple, two apples, three apples. And then you can stick a number in front of them. They can be singular or plural, like one chair or three chairs. But the uncountable nouns, on the other hand, these are the ones you cannot count, okay? So you can't count them individually. They're treated as singular, and usually they don't take a or an. So water is an uncountable noun. Sand, money, all right, furniture, information. Okay, so you can't say two furnitures. That's completely wrong. Okay, and you can't say three informations. No, you can say two pieces of furniture. All right, you can say three pieces of information. Okay, but you cannot say two furnitures, two informations. You can't say staffs. Okay, you can't say three staffs. You can't say that. You can say three members of staff, but you cannot say three staffs or stuffs. Those are completely uncountable nouns. Okay, and then we have plural nouns. All right, plural nouns. Plural nouns, like most nouns, add s, at the end, like boys, cats, But then we also have nouns that already end in s or double s or ch or sh or x, things like that. At that point, you have to add an e before you add the s, things like that. So you have things like buses instead of bus. I don't know if you understand that, or churches, right? Or boxes, things like that. And then when your nouns end in Y after a consonant like lady, you know that you have to add an IES to make it a plural noun. Okay, so lady, ladies, baby, babies. But if the ending vowel comes after, I'm sorry, if the ending Y comes after a vowel, then it's toy, like toys. So you just add the S. It's pretty straightforward and easy. I hope we're still following, and I hope that you're understanding what I'm saying. Okay. And then we have the irregular plurals. Okay. So these are like the rebels, the ones like the plural of man, you know, man, men, all right? Woman, woman, okay? Foot, feet, all right? Child, children, mouse, mice, okay? They're called irregular plurals, okay? And then there's some nouns that don't change at all. So you have the plural of sheep being sheep, the plural of fish being fish, the plural of series being series. Okay, so it's pretty yeah. I mean, there's so many rules, and it's important to always be able to abide by these rules so that we do not um say things the wrong way. Okay. Now, a tricky category also is compound nouns, and these are nouns that are made up of words in like two parts. So we have words like mother-in-law, commander-in-chief. Those are compound nouns, and the plurals of such things is usually to use the first word to pluralize the first word and leave the rest of the words in that compound. So rather than say the plural of mother-in-law as mother-in-laws, which is wrong. You should say mothers-in-law, commanders-in-chief. All right? That's a mistake a lot of people make. And yeah, we have to be very careful not to make those mistakes. And that's why these laws exist. Okay? And then let's talk about verbs. Okay? So verbs are the engine of the sentence, right? They express action or being. When I was in primary school, I would hear the definition of um, a verb being an action word or a doing word. So they're dynamic, right? Action verbs, they name actions like, oh, I play cricket every Saturday. And then there's the verb of being or appearance, okay? These do not show the physical action, but a state of existence or condition like be, all right? Like becomes, like seem, like appear. Those are verbs as well. Okay, so my brother is very fit. You appear to be upset. That's an example. All right. You appear. That's what that person seems to look like, and that's describing, that person's essence at that point in time. And so, yeah, you appear to be upset. The verb in that sentence is appear. All right. So crucially, verbs change form on who's doing the action and when the action occurred. Okay. So we hear things like I, you, we, they play. So I play, you play, we play, they play, right? And then it changes when you're referring to a she or a he, like she plays, he plays. At that point, you're adding an S to the word play to qualify what that person is doing. Okay. Now we already know that verbs show action or state, but then there's a layer of structure that we must master to sound polished, right? So we have something called helping verbs, like the transitive or intransitive and phrasal verbs. Now, these little helpers called the helping verbs basically help the main verb show tense, mood, or voice. Examples would be, have, do, will, shall, can, may, must, right? Let's use that in a sentence, for example. She's studying, she has eaten, and she must try this. All right, those are helping verbs. Okay, then we have the transitive verbs, right? And these basically need an object to complete their meaning. So I kicked the ball. What did you kick? The ball. All right. Intransitive verbs are the ones that stand alone. Okay, I sleep or she laughed. You're not, there's nothing else to be added to that one. And then we have the phrasal verbs. The phrasal verbs. Now, these are beautiful, tricky little combinations of verbs and prepositions, or perhaps even adverbs that change meaning entirely. So for example, look up, right, means to search for. Look after means to care for. Look down on means to disrespect. So you can see that everything has to do with look, 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 and whatever it is that comes after it is what changes the meaning. Okay, so you can't always guess the meaning of the parts, which is why they're important to learn in context. Okay. Yeah. And then we have tenses. We have tenses. Tenses is like time travel in language, right? It's all about time, the past, the present, and the future. So it tells us when the action took place, right? And English is complex. So it has 7 major tenses. It has the present, it has the present perfect, it has the present continuous, it has the future, it has the future perfect, it has the past, and it has the past perfect. So let's look at how the verb walk changes in context. Okay. Um, Present tense, we say he walks on the beach, right? Present continuous, which is happening now, we say he's walking on the beach. Past, he walked on the beach, right? Present perfect, started in the past and it continues or affects now. It says he has walked on the beach. So understanding tenses ensures that your timeline is correct, right? So if you mix up your tenses in a story or report, your reader will in essence will be lost in time. Okay, so the real art is tense consistency. Never start in the past and jump to the present without reason. For instance, I was wrong. Sorry, I was cooking and suddenly the phone rings. Now that is not, you know, correct. That's not the right way to say it. The important or the right way to say it is I was cooking and suddenly the phone rang. Do you understand the difference between the two? The first one that is not right is I was cooking and suddenly the phone rings. It doesn't make sense. But if you say I was cooking and suddenly the phone rang, that makes sense. All right. So tense consistency basically gives your listener confidence that you're in control of your story's timeline, as it were. Okay. And then we have the adjectives. The adjectives, all right. Adjectives are the artists of the language. They add color and detail. They describe or modify nouns or pronouns. They tell us about the quality of the words. So we have um words like kind boss because they are modifying a noun. So kind being the adjective, noun being the boss. So it says kind boss or good friend or lovely dinner. All right. And then they also modify pronouns as well. So you can say things like, oh, he was funny, she is charming. It's, that's what adjectives do for you. Okay. And now the forms of adjectives are the positive, the comparative, and the superlative. Okay. So the positive simply states the quality. All right. The comparative compares the quality of two things, and then the superlative compares the quality of three or more things. So you have an example like, oh, the surf was, I'm sorry, the good surf was worth waiting for, right? Or you have something like, the surf yesterday was better than the surf today. That's for comparative. And then the superlative, it is the best surf I've ever had. So it uses words like good, better, best. All right. And then there's the simple ones like tall, taller, tallest, and what have we. So adjectives aren't just pretty words. They follow an order of description, right? That native speakers use instinctively, right? So when you use several adjectives in the order that usually goes like opinion, like for instance, size, age, shape, color, origin, material, purpose, and then noun. So you say things like, oh, a lovely small old round red wooden cooking, round red Nigerian wooden cooking pot. All right. Now, it may sound funny, but that's the way it's supposed to go. Because if you jumble them up, then the order just feels very weird. All right. So getting them in the right order makes English feel natural. Okay. And then another quick note, right? Adjectives can appear before a noun, a beautiful dress, okay? Or you can use it to link verbs like the dress is beautiful, okay? Right. And then, yes, we have our dear friend, the adverbs. The adverbs. These are describing the action, okay? So if adjectives describe nouns, adverbs describe verbs, right? So other adverbs and adjectives, are the things that adverbs basically end up describing. Okay, so they what they do is that they give detail for action. They're the detail givers. All right, so they answer questions like how often, where, when, and then they show time and they show place and manner as well. Okay, so most adverbs end in ly. So you hear things like slowly, happily, powerfully. But remember that there are exceptions also. So you hear things also like well, fast, always. Okay. Adverbs can modify entire sentences too. So not just verbs. For example, honestly, I don't agree, or fortunately, we arrived on time. All right. So that's one. And then not all adverbs end in ly, like I said before. You have lately, you have hardly, you have early. These are the perfect examples that end in ly. But then you also have work hard or hardly work. You can see the difference. They mean the same thing, but they sound different. Okay. Now, if I say something like only I love you, that means that nobody else does. But if I say some, I'm trying to get you to understand that the order of words and the placement of words matter a lot. Now, if you say something like, "Oh, I only love you," that means that I don't like or hate you. It is only that I love you. Okay. And then if you say something like, "I love only you," that means that you're the only one I love. Now, these are one, two, three, four words in a sentence that mean different things. So one little adverb can change the emotional temperature of an entire statement. Okay? Then we have the prepositions, right? The prepositions. Now, the word preposition comes from Latin and it means putting before, right? So um, um, a preposition is a word that is used to show the relationship between nouns, pronouns, or other words in a sentence. They tell us time, like, we will meet around midday, around being the preposition, or they tell us position. Um, I, I stayed at home today, at being the preposition, okay? And then also they tell us means, like, my friend travels by plane, okay? By being the preposition. So the common prepositions are, they are plentiful, there are many, all right? So you have words like about, above, across, after, at, before, behind, between, by, during, from, into, of, to, under, with, and many more like that, all right? Preposition often come together with their nouns to form prepositional phrases. So at the bus stop, under the table, during the meeting, those are prepositional phrases. Like these little phrases glue ideas together without them, basically sentences fall apart. Okay, but beware, right? Beware of preposition misuse. All right. For instance, it's incorrect to say, let's discuss about the issue. You can't say that. You shouldn't say that. The correct thing is discuss the issue, all right? Or enter into the room. No, enter the room, all right? So prepositions love to surprise us. So they must be memorized in context, all right? All right? They must be memorized in context. Then we have our dear friends, our dear friend, the pronouns, okay? Pronouns. And I know that in today's world, pronouns are a big deal. It's important. I mean, if you intend to be politically correct, people want you to use the right pronouns to address them. And pronouns are the brilliant tools, okay, for making your language flow, as they're used to avoid repetition and they take the place of nouns. So without pronouns, let me read a sentence to you without pronouns, okay? John asked Sarah to the party. Sarah told John that Sarah would go with John, and Sarah said that John was very pleased that Sarah accepted John's invitation. Now, please, why would we ever have to speak like this? Okay? When you could simply say, John asked Sarah to the party, and she said yes. John was very pleased that she accepted. Simple as A, B, C. Okay? Now, pronouns change their form based on where they're used in a sentence. Okay? Like now, like the nouns that they replace, and whether they are singular or plural, male or female, right? So we have personal pronouns, right? Like I, you, he, she, it, we, they. Okay? And then we have relative pronouns, who, which, that, right? And then we have the indefinite pronouns, some, one, everything, anybody, right? Trainers, I'm sorry, pronouns must agree with the nouns they replace in gender and number. Okay? So it's incorrect to say every student must submit their work unless you're using gender neutral English, okay? The correct thing is every student must submit his or her work, all right? Now, we also have possessive nouns like mine, yours, hers, ours, theirs, and reflective nouns like myself, yourself, themselves. Okay, and reflective nouns are used when the subject and the object are the same person. So I taught myself how to play piano, right? Or she hurt herself while cooking, right? And then finally, we have the demonstrative pronouns. Those are the this, that, these, those. And then we have the interrogative pronouns as well. The who, the that, the which, the whose. They help us point, question, or even specify something. Okay? Yeah. And then we have conjunctions as well. We have conjunctions, and the conjunctions are the glue of a language. Okay, I think I mentioned conjunctions earlier, and then but I think I want to elaborate a little bit on those conjunctions. Okay, um, because we have something called the coordinating conjunctions: the for, the and, the nor, the but, the or, the yet, the so, right? And then we have the subordinating conjunctions, which are um, because, although, since, when, unless, whereas, okay? And then we have the correlative ones, the either, the neither, the no, the not, the only, the but, the also, all right? So an example of a sentence with a coordinating one would be, I wanted to go, but it rained, right? An example of a subordinating one would be, I stayed at home because it rained. Can you see the difference? So one is coordinating while the other one is subordinating, okay? And then the correlative is, oh, not only did it rain, but it also thundered, okay? So knowing which one to use makes your writing flow like a storyteller, okay? It's smooth, it's clear, it's confident. And without conjunctions, our sentences would sound like awkward shopping lists. Do you understand? Like, oh, imagine saying, I like rice, I like beans, I like plantain. It's grammatically correct, yes, but it's not rhythmical. Do you understand? Um, it, I mean, it sounds like a broken drum beat, you know? Like if you say something like, oh, I like rice, beans, and plantain, that makes more sense. That's smooth, it's connected, it's confident. And that's the power of conjunctions. They are the connectors of English. They link words, they link phrases, they link clauses, so that your ideas will flow instead of just clatter. All right. Um, what else? Okay, yes. I think, did we talk about interjections? I don't think we talked about I don't think we talked about interjections. Okay, let me just talk about interjections a little bit. So interjections are the seasoning in in English, in language generally. Actually, they give flavor, they give emotion, they give attitude. Okay, so you hear examples of interjections like wow, ouch, oh no, hooray, aha. They are mostly informal, so we avoid um, we avoid using them in professional writing, but they are vital in spoken English because they convey emotion instantly. So of course you'd sound odd writing um, let me see. It sound odd writing I was excited when you could simply exclaim, um, um, wow, that's amazing. So, I mean, basically, interjections are emotional lightning bolts. They don't just tell you something. They show you how the speaker feels. They interject feeling, surprise, urgency into a statement. So, you say things like, wow, you say, oops, you say, oh no, indeed, aha, yikes, things like that. So you see someone and they look beautiful, you say something like, oh wow, you look amazing, or your pen drops and you want to exclaim, you say, oops, I dropped my pen, things like that. Interjections make writing human. They remind us that language is not mechanical, okay? It's full of life and emotion. So you don't just go through life just sounding bland, basically. But it's also important that you do not overuse them so you don't sound like a cartoon character. All right. Okay, and then we have something called the determiners, right? They are the introducers, and they're often missed out. They are small but mighty, right? They introduce nouns. They tell us whether we're talking about something specific or general. So you have the words like a or an or the, all right? Or you have the demonstratives like this, that, these, those, and you have the possessives like, oh, my, your, her, our, all right? And then the quantifiers, some, many, few, all, all right? So the article one, that is a or an, is used when something is not specific, while the is used when both the speaker and the listener know what we mean. Okay, so for example, I saw a dog would mean that you saw any dog, right? But if you say I saw the dog that chased you yesterday, you're talking about a specific dog. Okay, so right, many African speakers, we usually drop the articles in speech, and I don't know why we started doing that out of the blue, rather than saying that, oh, we went to the market. We say things like, oh, she went to market, and I don't know, it just sounds very weird when people say that, but I mean, it's something that we do quite often. But I mean, it's fine when we're speaking amongst friends or colloquially or anything, but when you're speaking professionally, it's important not to make those mistakes. So yes, it's understood in the local context, but in formal settings and international settings, articles help you sound polished and precise. All right. And so basically um English grammar, the part of speech of English grammar, that's what it all talks about. Okay. So yeah, there's also something called I like to call it architecture of English, right? Basically it is sentence structure and agreement. All right, so imagine your words are bricks, right? Grammar is the mortar, but sentence structure is the design, right? The layout of the house itself. So if you get it wrong, your sentences will collapse like, a badly built wall, right? So every complete sentence must have two core parts, right? There's a subject, that's the doer of the topic, and then there's the predicate, what is said about that subject, right? For instance, the choir sang beautifully. The subject is the choir, and the predicate is that they sang beautifully. Okay, so without both your sentences, they're incomplete. Okay, so the choir alone is a fragment, and sang beautifully also is a fragment on its own, right? Now, sentences can be categorized based on their structure. So you have a simple sentence, for instance, and a simple sentence basically contains one subject and one predicate. It expresses one complete thought. So example would be, oh, the sun rises in the east, right? Now, a compound sentence contains two or more simple sentences joined by, our coordinating conjunction, right? So an example of that would be the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, okay? And then we have the complex sentence, all right? And the complex sentence contains one main one, which is independent, a clause, and one or more dependent clauses, right? So the sun rises in the east because the earth rotates around its axis, right? So you can see the difference in the first three sentences. And then we have the compound complex sentence, right? That's the grand finale. At least this one will have at least two independent clauses plus one or more dependent clauses, right? So the sun rises in the east and sets in the west because the earth rotates around its axis, okay? So the more comfortable you become with these structures, the more control you gain over your communication. It's like playing jazz, you start with simple notes and then learn how to improvise beautifully, okay? So agreements, there's something called agreements, right? And it's basically the heartbeat of grammatical correctness. All right. Agreement means that words in a sentence must match in number, in person, and tense. Right. So it's like a partnership, right? Subject and verb must always be in sync, like dancers moving, to the same rhythm. Like, they're not dancing off beat. So we have the subject verb agreement, all right? Now, singular subjects take singular verbs, plural subjects take plural verbs. So the boy runs fast, the boys run fast. See the difference? The boy runs fast, right? And then the boys run fast. Common trouble spot. Everyone, someone, anyone, they though they sound plural, they're actually singular words. So everyone loves music. Not everyone loves music. Do you understand? So it's obvious that that's a singular term. Now, when words between subject and verb ignore interruption, right? So that becomes a problem. Okay, so basically you need to make sure that that doesn't happen. So the teacher along with the students is attending a seminar. Do you hear that? Even though it kind of sounds weird, it's the correct way to say it. But a lot of us will end up saying things like, "Oh, the teacher along with the students are attending the seminar," because they see that there are more than one people. But the basic thing to note here is that it is the teacher that is being talked about. The students are just an addition. So the main subject is the teacher, right? So the correct thing to say is the teacher along with the students is attending the seminar. Okay. Now, we also have pronoun antecedent agreement, right? Pronoun antecedent agreement. Now, the pronoun must agree with its noun in number and gender, right? So, an example of that would be the man forgot his phone. The man, right, is male, and his also has to correlate as a male qualifier. All right. So then we also have the women finished their meal. Now you know that there are more than the one woman and their women, and so the antecedent shows that, and so it has to be the women finished their meal. And then there's got to be tense consistency. Tense consistency. Nothing confuses readers faster than time traveling verbs, like I mentioned before. So you have to keep your tenses consistent with a sentence, within a sentence or paragraph. So, for instance, she entered the room and sees the mess. You can't, I mean, that's weird. It sounds weird in the end. But when you hear she entered the room and saw the mess, you see the consistency between the two there. So agreement is one of those quiet rules. No one really claps when you get it right, but everybody notices when you get it wrong. It just suddenly sounds off in the ears of people. Okay, so so far some of the main points that we can take from what we've learned before we go on to the next thing and then round up is that what most people learn language from their family and their friends or their community. And we want to remember, once you understand the rules of a language, you can communicate effectively. Okay. Then, thirdly, the English language has been influenced by other languages such as French, German, Latin, Greek, Italian, Arabic or Indian. And then there are certain words that are no longer used in the English language, like we mentioned before, like haver and all those archaic words that I mentioned. Punctuation is used to help us make sense of what we read. All right. And also that punctuation can alter the meaning of sentences. Using punctuation symbols helps you know when to stop a sentence, take a breath, pause, become excited, lift your voice, or ask a question, to ask a question or to begin a sentence. Okay, then a sentence is usually incomplete. Sorry, it's usually a complete statement. How is that? And then a full stop ends a sentence. Also, most people learn language from their family, friends, and their community. Um, Also, once you understand the rules of language, you can communicate effectively. Okay, I think I'm actually just repeating myself. Okay, a question mark is used when what has just come before it is either a direct question or a speaker slash writer is doubtful about how correct the statement is. And then we know that the ellipsis is used to show that the writer has left something out deliberately. An asterisk is used to replace letters in words that may offend people. Bullet points are used to summarize information. I can't remember I was talking about it, but now you know. A stroke or forward slash is used to tell us that we have a choice to make. It is also used to separate lines of a poem. Nouns are naming words, the words that give the names, that give us the names for people, places, and things. Abstract nouns name feelings, concepts, and ideas. Verbs name actions, all right? Verbs can be changed like nouns, and the form they take is determined by who's doing the action and when the action occurred, okay? Then some verbs show being or appearance, such as to be. Adjectives are words that tell us something about the quality of nouns. Superlative adjectives are created using the formula most plus adjective plus est. Adverbs modify verbs and usually end in ly. A preposition is used to show the relationship between nouns, pronouns, and other words in a sentence. Pronouns are used to avoid repetition to take the place of nouns in a sentence. The three main types of pronouns: personal, relative, indefinite. All right? And then we move on to tautology. Tautology. Now we're coming to the end of this our session today. So let us land with something practical, something that you'll start noticing the moment you leave this class. Okay. Now, I know we've all heard of the word tautology, and it simply means saying the same thing twice, okay, in different words. It's what happens when we try to make a sentence sound richer or end up padding it with unnecessary repetition, okay? And it's absolutely unnecessary to use tautologies. So I mean, let me try and paint a picture for you, right? If words were close, tautology would be like wearing two wristwatches, right? You're technically not wrong, but you're certainly doing too much. All right. So yeah, it's needless repetition. It's when you use two words or phrases that mean the same thing. So it becomes one then becomes redundant. One word already carries the meaning of the other. You're making it um absolutely unnecessary. So when you say something like, "Oh, I went to see him personally," the word personally doesn't add meaning. It only adds clutter. The I in "I went to see him" already tells us who went. So you don't need to reinforce the But what happens is that it weakens our sentences. So instead of strengthening them, you're making them weaker. And so it's the difference between saying something with impact and saying something with noise. Okay. So when he says something like, "I saw it with my own eyes," like, whose eyes were you going to use to see it before? Do you understand? So yeah, it's important to note, those things, that we shouldn't just say words because we know them. You should use words effectively. Most tautologies, basically, they come from habits or cultural emphasis. So in many African and Nigerian contexts, repetition feels naturally, right? It's our rhythm, it's our music, it's our emphasis. That's why we hear things like, "Oh, come fast, fast." Do you understand? In fact, it's even further trickles down into naming our snacks like chin chin, puff puff, dun dun, do do. I mean, it's an African thing, but that notwithstanding, let's not let it translate when we're speaking formally. All right, because I mean, it's perfectly fine when you do it in formal conversation. It adds color. It adds humor. It adds life. But in formal writing, in essays, in reports, in speeches, it's nothing but clutter. Okay, so the reader doesn't need double assurance, right? They just need precision. So um, writing with tautology, it just it doesn't work, basically, because I know exactly what I'm saying, but I don't need extra words to prove it. And so you just say the things that are important, and let it go. So there's some common tautologies in the English language. One of them is reverse back. Reverse back means to drive backward. I'm sorry, reverse means to drive backward. So reverse the car or drive back is the correct thing to say. But saying reverse back is completely redundant. Then Yoruba people will now say reverse back, saying, that even like further, cancels the whole thing and just messes it up, so to speak. And then we have still yet. My grandmother used to say that a lot, and that's why it resonates with me. Still yet, no, because I'm Yoruba and my grandmother would speak Yoruba, so she would say still yet, no. And I mean, it's a waste of time. You say still or you say yes, but not still yes, because both mean that something hasn't occurred. So he has not arrived yet, or he's still not here. Still yet is a long thing. Then we have night vigil. A vigil is a period of watching, typically held at night, right? So if you're holding vigil at night, then it is definitely, I mean, if you're holding vigil, it's definitely at night. Do you understand? Because that means you're not sleeping and all that. So you say vigil, you do not say night vigil, okay? We have more better. My car is more better than yours. Come on, it even sounds weird. Like, the other ones may even still, so this one is even wrong. It's just completely wrong. So yeah, you should just say my car is better than yours, okay? Some certain, some and certain both, indicate selectivity. So yes, you either say some members or certain members, not some certain members, okay? Then 10 years anniversary. An anniversary happens yearly, okay? So you don't say 10 years anniversary, you say 10th anniversary, or you say 10 years of a particular thing, okay? But you don't say 10-year anniversary. Um, Short summary. To summarize something is to shorten something. So of course, this is complete no. See me at 7 p.m. at night. When would 7 p.m. have been before? Would it have been in the morning? So yeah. And then, oh, in my opinion, I think when you think it's your opinion, so also that doesn't make any sense. Then please RSVP. Um, my dear brothers and sisters, RSVP means please respond. So if you're saying please RSVP, that means that you're saying please respond. Why are you saying please twice? Doesn't make sense. Okay. First and foremost, when it is first, it is foremost. So first and foremost is completely unnecessary. Okay. Close proximity. Come on. The actual definition of proximity is that something is close. So why are you saying close proximity? It doesn't make sense. Okay. Now, um, um, I want everyone to become an editor. Okay. So when you get home, right, think about certain. I mean, okay, I'll read out certain words, and I just want you um to correct it by yourself, knowing the right thing to say. Or as a matter of fact, let's not wait till we get on because we're almost done with this class. So let me see in the comments. I said comments in the chat room. Um, the correct interpretation of the word of the sentence. She returned back home after work. What is the right thing to say? She returned back home after work. It is wrong. So what is the right thing to say? She returned home after work. Let's have it. Let's have it. Let's have it. We have a few more minutes to end. So please, I want to hear the correct thing. How many people are left on this call? Why does it seem like everybody has left? Are we still here? Can we still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, beautiful. Right. So I'd like a response. She returned home after work. What's the correct thing? Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, this the response that I'm looking for here is she returned home. All right, she returned home. She returned back home after work is it's too many words. So she returned home. So what's the correct thing to say if I say, oh, please repeat again what you said? What are we taking out of that sentence? Okay, it seems like people don't want to answer. That's fine. I'll say the wrong thing and correct it myself, and we'll end shortly. All right. So right. Please repeat again what you said. The correct thing would be please repeat what you said. Thank you for answering that question. And then we have the end result was disappointing rather than the result was disappointing because the result always happens at the end, okay? And then they collaborated together on the project. If you're collaborating, then that means you're doing something with someone. So together was absolutely unnecessary in that sentence. And then he made the final conclusion as opposed to he drew a conclusion. So less is more always. Less is always more. Okay, so basically tautology is not limited to full sentences. It also sneaks into acronyms, like some people, you hear people say ATM machine. ATM already means automated, what's that thing again? Teller machine, automated teller machine. So if you're saying ATM machine, then you're saying automated teller machine. So it's absolutely unnecessary. Or you say PIN number as opposed to just say PIN because the N there stands for number. HIV virus, it's still a tautology because the V at the end of HIV stands for virus, or LCD display. The D at the end of LCD stands for display. So next time someone says ATM machine, just smile because at this point you have now outgrown that kind of mistake. So the main lesson from tautology is simple, but it's also very important to note that in writing, as in life, less is more. So when you write or speak or imagine or, whatever it is, just know that that extra thing that you are putting in there, it doesn't make it mean more. And for a native English speaker, they actually see that you're trying very hard to impress them. That's why you're using extra words. Okay. Um, in formal settings, right, it's important to write clearly and concisely. So, if you eliminate tautology, your writing becomes more powerful and your ideas will shine forth unclouded. Okay. So as you go out and you write essays and you write emails and you write WhatsApp messages and all whatnot that you write, your proposals, social media captions, things like that. Just remember that precision is elegance. Don't decorate your sentences with needless repetition. Instead, just sharpen them and trust your readers' intelligence, because when your words are lean and deliberate, um, they command attention. And so that is how you say more by saying less. And so with these few words of mine, I hope I've been able to pass across my message to you all. Okay, let's look at a few more tautologies to quote verbatim. I mean, come on, if you're quoting somebody, then that means that it's verbatim. So yeah, there's no need to use that. We talked about this enough, sufficient enough. Sufficient means enough. So yeah, yeah, I think we're done. Okay, yeah. So yeah, when you talk about in Rome, we saw dilapidated ruins. Ruins and dilapidated basically mean the same thing. In America, a hoagie is a sandwich. Okay, so hoagie sandwich is also not something that makes sense to say. I only started our presentation with a short summary. I think I already talked about short summary. And then he's always making predictions about the future. You can only make predictions about the future. So putting about the future is redundant, okay? A dry desert. Come on, a desert by its very nature is dry, okay? Um, yeah, basically. I think we're good. We're good. We're good. I've talked about all of this. Yeah. So in advertising, you hear some people say, "Oh, added bonus." If it's a bonus, it's added. So I mean, again, that's redundant. Please prepay in advance. If you're prepaying, it's in advance. Do you understand? So you either say, "Please pay in advance" or "Please prepay." Okay. The store is giving away free tickets. If you're giving it away, then it is free. So you either say the store is giving away tickets, right? Yeah, and basically that's just it. The store is giving away tickets. So you don't need to put free in there. The world's greatest spokesman in the world. I mean, you already put the world there. I think you're just spokesman in the world again. Yeah. I think we're good. Yes, I said it before. Less is more. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned a thing or two. I'm happy to have been here. Until I come your way next time, continue to do better. What am I doing? Continue to do better by um, you know practicing your English language. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate being here with you. My throat is dry, and can't drink water. So yeah. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, you have a question. Did somebody say, yeah, please ask a
Yeah,
question.
yeah. Hello, ma'am. Sorry. Yeah, sorry I joined in late again, but
Oh,
I want to ask, did you speak on subject verb agreement in your lecture so that later I get a recording and go through again?
yes, I did. I did. So yes, you
Oh,
can listen to the recording afterwards.
okay, okay, okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Any other questions?
Yeah, hello. Sorry once again.
Okay, that's
Um,
fine.
yeah, so normally it looks like sometimes by our foundation, our grammar is not so strong. So normally when we get to the university and we are trying to cultivate the habit to read more or to engage in more research, we find it difficult to really comprehend. I wonder, so what advice could you best give now that probably at the foundation level we couldn't have any grammarly school or anything? What advice could you give possibly a university graduate who wants to enrich himself in words, in writing as well?
Oh, okay, that's a lovely question. So I always tell everybody who has a challenge with things like grammar is to go back to books that we were used that were used to teach us when we were in primary school. Books like Brighter Grammar. I think there are four parts. So there's Brighter Grammar, there is Mastering English, and there's First Aid in English. Look for those books. They're a great help.
Okay.
I know people who are eloquent speakers now, but a long time ago when they were not, that is what they did. So that's my advice. Look for Brighter Grammar, look for First Aid in English, look for Mastering English. Those three
Okay.
books, they hold the key.
Mastery English. Okay.
Yes, Brighter Grammar, Mastering English, and First Aid in English. They tell you
Yes.
about, all the parts of speech, the idiomatic expressions, all those things. Yeah, I mean, I think those were my favorite books when I was much younger because, like I said, I was not a native speaker of the English language. I couldn't speak English until I turned, I think, 5 years or 6. Yeah. So I
Yes,
had a
ma'am.
tough time when I was in school.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions? Please feel free to ask. We have 7 more minutes to end the class. No more questions? Okay. So it seems like there are no more questions. I shall beg to take my leave. Thank you very much. So until I come your way next month,
Yes, we are number one. Also,
enjoy.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
ma. Please, let's all give our trainer a round of applause. Please, let's appreciate our trainer. Let's all appreciate our trainer. Thank you so much, ma. It was really great. It was really an insightful session. Please, everybody, do not forget to fill in the attendance form. The link to the attendance is in the chat box. Please fill in the attendance form. And thank you so much for joining today's session. Thank you so much, Madam Odejide. We'll be having this class
Thank you for
again.
having me.
Um, Friday, first Friday of next month. The recording and the material will be posted in the Telegram and the WhatsApp group. I hope we are all on that group. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day ahead.